They say that talking to yourself is a sign of insanity. But I think that's only your answer back, right? Right. This is Talking to Myself, the Art Advice podcast where I use anecdotes from my life to try to make myself a better artist, possibly a better person. Hopefully someone else can benefit from this also, but mostly I'm just trying to avoid paying for therapy. Today on the podcast, I thought we'd talk about the idea of legacy, the part of you that lives on after your death. And no, I'm not dying, well, any more than anyone else is at my age, which is, I guess, quite a bit. Beside the point, I'm not actually physically dying right now, but I will someday. And artistically, I have to start thinking about what kind of impact am I making on the world? Am I leaving behind anything that's going to be any good? Yeah, is anything I'm doing now matter? When is, my little scribbling habit going to make it through to the real world? You look at a lot of people who've done art and they're considered famous for it, I suppose, or influential. A lot of people want to be rich and famous. I never wanted to be famous. I wouldn't mind being rich, of course. Being rich seems useful from the outside. I'm sure there are problems to go with it, but it's better than not being rich, I assume. But I never, ever wanted to be famous. I mostly just wanted to be ignored so I could do my own thing and not worry about anything else. But you can't really try to make art for a living and not have some measure of connection with the outside world. It just doesn't work like that. People want to know who you are, what you're about. They want to have some sort of connection, and that's how you end up selling pieces, I'm told. So I have to think about, is what I'm doing going to have an impact on the world, and what kind of impact is it going to have? Is that important to me? Should that be important to me? And how do I go about making sure that what I would like to happen with my life and that the art that I make happens? I thought about it for a long time, and it's easy to get down when you're in my position. I don't seem to have a lot of influence or a lot of effect on the art world or artists in general, or even just normal people. Some people see my art. I mean, I get a few likes on Instagram or whatnot, not many compared to other people. It's always a good percentage. They say that about 10% like compared to engagement is good. Not that I know anything about digital marketing, but I've heard that. And I get that or better almost every time I post, which is great. I mean, overall, I don't get a lot of likes because I don't get a lot of engagement. So that's another issue to work on. But I'm satisfied with the quality, the reception to the quality of my work and the ideas and the interest of it. So people, when exposed to it in general, to my satisfaction, seem to approve. Not that I feel like it's necessary to have their approval to make it good, of course. People liking it doesn't make it good. I mean, just look at disco. It was hugely popular. But it would be nice to have some sort of feeling that what I'm doing matters to someone, is making an impact. Because sometimes, not always, but sometimes the work I do has a deeper emotional meaning for me. Sometimes I'm trying to communicate something that I want to share with the world without specifically sharing it. And I think that's something art is really good about, is communicating something without having to use an explanation, without having to get too personal, without having to explain yourself, none of which I'm good at. But I can draw a monster that looks sad or angry or, displeased. And if I can do that and someone else sees it and they go, oh, yeah, I felt like that before, so I get where he's coming from, then I think that's a good thing. I think I've succeeded if I can manage to pull that off. And if maybe one person sees something I've drawn and it gives them a chuckle or makes them think for a second, I've said this before, that actually is a win. I think as far as legacy goes, that's a tiny little crumb of a thing, of an effect on someone else's life. But you have to think about not having that. Say I didn't put that piece of art out there and their day was slightly different the other way. So positive, no matter how small, is better than negative or zero effect. So I'm going to try to satisfy myself with that, to hold off the feelings that I'm not really doing anything important or worthwhile, so that I can continue to make things. Because if you give into the feelings that what you're doing isn't worthwhile, it becomes incredibly difficult to make yourself make anything or continue doing what you're doing or doing anything, really. I mean, why would you struggle to make things? And it is always a struggle if it's not going to pay off in any way. I mean, I suppose you can make things to please yourself. Some people manage to do that. But I think I want a little more than that. I don't want to necessarily please people, but it would be nice for people to be able to relate to what I'm going through or trying to show or trying to say, even if it's just on the level of, I get that. And hey, if maybe they see it and they laugh, or maybe they see it and they it strikes a chord with them, and they would like to have a copy of that on their wall or something like that, or on their phone wallpaper, something. If someone actually buys something from me, it's a really big thing for me personally, because I feel like they like it enough, they put a value on it, and they want it in their life. And that's good. That makes me feel good. And that's enough to keep you going. It's great. I'm not going to start an art movement, probably. I probably won't get a giant gallery show and be discovered by the art world. And that's fine, because a lot of that's bogus anyway. A lot of that means nothing. As long as the art can matter to myself, and as long as I'm having a net positive impact on other people, I think I'm doing okay. So here's the part where I talk to my future self. Hey, future self. Jesus, you need to start watching what you're eating again. Maybe exercise a little more, buddy, okay? You're not getting any younger. Don't worry too much about you thinking that what you're doing is not succeeding because it doesn't seem to be penetrating too much into the larger world. And I know you know what I'm saying, even though that sounds complicated and dumb, because I know how you think or don't think. Focus on making the best thing you can, and I think eventually you will come across people who appreciate it, and that will form a feedback loop so you can continue making things. As always, the important thing is to not stop making things, so keep that up, future self, and I think everything's going to be fine. But definitely maybe exercise some more. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. You guys are great. I appreciate every one of you. Special thanks to my patrons on Patreon. You folks get to hear and see these a week earlier than everyone else, and you are the shiniest people I know. And honestly, sometimes you guys are the reason I do these. So, thank you. I'll talk to everybody again soon. If you're going through anything, maybe talk to somebody. Maybe think to yourself what good you've done. I'm sure there's plenty. And just remember that no one is a failure who can lighten the burden for someone else. Take it easy.